And I also want to thank our U.S. Marshals. They've been so great in helping us to secure facilities, but also operations, and also with transportation. That as soon as someone is arrested and brought into incarceration, that they are transported out and able to face prosecution and the consequences for their crimes. I want people to know that while these officers and these agencies in our military are here doing this work and these operations, that the people across this country are so grateful. They are so grateful for the work that is being done here in Los Angeles. They are setting an example for what is happening across the country in other cities, and putting together a model and a blueprint for how we can continue to work to make every single community great again and safe again for our kids and for our grandkids far into the future. I've been in many different states with all the different components that I represent over the last 4 or 5 days, and everywhere I go, people stop me and say, tell everybody who's working in Los Angeles that is working to bring safety to those city streets and to those families and protect those small business, tell them thank you. Tell them God bless you, that I hope that they are safe, and they have been suffering. The people that live here under the policies of Governor Newsom and under the policies of Mayor Bass, and they recognize that it's a huge disservice to the people who have to try to raise their families here, and that these agents and that these law enforcement officers are working to change that and give them an opportunity to be successful and to live the American dream. Listen, many officers have been assaulted over the last several days. We did see before that assaults against law enforcement and ICE officers go up over 400%. In this situation, we've seen that increase even more. It's not acceptable. If you assault a law enforcement officer, we are going to come after you and we are going to arrest you, prosecute you, and put you away. That is not going to work. And under this administration with President Trump's leadership, one person is not better than another. Just because you think you're here as a citizen, or because you're a member of a certain group, or you're not a citizen, it doesn't mean that you're going to be protected and not face consequences from the laws that this country stands for. We have a constitution. We follow that constitution and the laws that have been passed by our Congress, and we're going to make sure they are equally applied to every single person as it applies under the Constitution here in Los Angeles, but also as our law enforcement officers have been assaulted, they've been pelted with rocks and bricks. Their cars have been set on fire. Molotov cocktails have been used. We have seen people throw bottles and hammers at them. We've also seen that they have been attacked and verbally spit on or punched or assaulted, and it's just not acceptable. The Department of Homeland Security and the officers and the agencies and the departments and the military people that are working on this operation will continue to sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country, and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
Because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty, how they have been targeted, and how their families have been put in jeopardy, and that we're not going to allow that anymore as well. That those individuals who are purposely endangering our ICE agents and our law enforcement officers and their families will be prosecuted for what they are doing as far as perpetuating violence on them. I want to know that the American people are grateful for our law enforcement officers. We will always respect them, and that President Trump is thankful for the leadership that has been shown by all of these agencies. In fact, President Trump did call in, and I did visit with him today, and he also visited with all of these agencies here this morning and thanked them for what they are doing to make sure that they are protecting the United States of America. The images that we've seen out of Los Angeles the last several days has simply been un-American by the protesters and the violence that we've seen perpetuated. Masked thugs are assaulting police officers. They're setting vehicles on fire. They're waving foreign flags on American soil while burning American flags. And they've damaged public property and destroyed private businesses. We need to make sure that we are continuing to protect the citizens that live here and want this community to be safe. Let me give you just a few examples of those who have been rioting that many politicians like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are defending. There was a Vietnamese illegal alien who committed a mass shooting at a graduation party in 1994 that we've been able to take off the streets. A Filipino illegal alien that was convicted of an assault with intent to commit rape that we've been able to bring up into custody and incarceration. And you see behind you some more profiles of individuals that have brought into custody through the operations we have here. A Mexican illegal alien convicted of willfully cruelty to a child, and on and on and on. Those individuals and those criminals are now off the streets of Los Angeles because of the activities that have been conducted here in the last several days and will continue to operate for days to come. When these riots first began on Friday night, a federal law enforcement building was surrounded by over 1,000 violent rioters, and it took Los Angeles Police Department 2 hours to respond. So we are going to continue to operate with our federal partners and continue to keep asking the governor and the mayor for their support and their backup in these operations to make sure that all of our law enforcement officers are protected while they do their work. We're going to protect American cities from lawlessness, and we'll do what it takes to put the American citizens first and make sure they have the opportunity to sleep safely in their beds at night. I just want to say God bless all of our men and women of the military that serve, all of those who serve in our law enforcement agencies and in public service, that make great sacrifices away from their homes and from their families, but they do it because they believe in America, and they believe in freedom, and they believe in law and order, and that is what we are doing right here today, and will continue to do for days to come until Los Angeles once again is at peace. So with that, we'll turn it over to our next speaker, which I believe will be Todd Lyons from ICE.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm Todd Lyons. I'm the acting ICE director. Also, I'm the National Incident Commander for the situation. But I'd just like to say thank you to Secretary Noem. She said it best. There's really not much more I can say. It's without her leadership that we wouldn't be out here conducting this mission. President Trump fully has our back on this one, and we're doing the will of the American people. I want to thank the brave men and women of ICE, HSI, ERO, our attorneys with the Office of Public Legal Counsel, because without them, this would not be possible. They put their lives on the line every day. You also see my fellow agency heads here with me, and many that are not up here on stage. The men and women of law enforcement have been putting themselves in harm's way every night since we've been here in Los Angeles. What we've done here is taken a whole government approach for this immigration mission. You know, under the last administration, there were millions upon millions of people that we don't know who came to this country. They were let in, that now have turned violent criminals. Also, we have known suspected terrorists and gang members. Since January 20th, we've been making arrests in Los Angeles and all around the country. But specifically, we've focused on gang members, human traffickers, violent drug dealers, and rapists. You know, the Secretary brought it up. You know, the rhetoric of a lot of elected officials and people what really caused this. We've heard so much. If ICE had a criminal warrant, if ICE had a judicial warrant, cities would cooperate with us. On this past Friday, you saw that. You saw the men and women of ICE and these other DOJ partners executing a criminal warrant on a criminal immigration enforcement case. Yet the city turned against us and we had violent protesters. And that just won't happen because the men and women of ICE won't be deterred by this. We're going to be out there every day conducting our law enforcement mission. No protesters are going to block our way because the brave men and women of ICE and these DOJ partners you see up here, along with our partners with the Los Angeles Police Department, are going to ensure that we handle these protesters, but we are out there safely conducting these operations, and we will get the worst off the street. And I'd also like to thank the Department of Defense and National Guard who has come here to assist us on that. You know, we will prosecute all these cases. Just, you know, the Secretary highlighted so many, you see them up here. But we have a wanted man from Mexico who fled and hid in Los Angeles for killing a woman. You have an MS-13 gang member who killed 2 individuals during a botched catalytic converter theft ring case. These aren't the individuals you want in Los Angeles. These aren't the individuals you want in the United States. ICE is going to keep doing their job, and we're going to do it to our best of our ability with our DOJ partners. But with the Secretary's leadership and the full support of the U.S. Attorney to prosecute these criminals, we will continue enforcing the immigration mission that President Trump and the American people expect us to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the FBI. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Akil Davis. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of FBI Los Angeles. As you know, the FBI has been assisting the Department of Homeland Security with immigration enforcement since February. We're just one of many field offices doing this nationwide as directed by the Attorney General. and we're accustomed to providing investigative and technical assistance to law enforcement at all levels on a regular basis. We have agents embedded with our operational teams with DHS. Our help vary depending on what DHS needs, and they let us know moment by moment. We have significant tactical resources across the enterprise here throughout our 7-county AOR to assist and support these efforts. That said, we find ourselves defending operations from violent offenders. The FBI safeguards constitutionally protected rights. We investigate civil rights violations on a daily basis, but some activity keeps taking place among righteous protesters is not civil. It's violent. We're going to investigate allegations of violence, whether it's assault on law enforcement officers or civilians, looting, arson, doxing, or damage to public property. So please, I'm asking the community, do not put your life in jeopardy by hurting someone or destroying property. You will be held accountable by the FBI, and it's not worth it. I'd like to highlight 2 cases for you to show what the FBI's line of effort is in this overall DHS-led operation. Elpidio Reyna is a fugitive. He is wanted for the alleged assault of a federal officer in the city of Paramount in California on June 7th, 2025. Reyna allegedly threw rocks at law enforcement vehicles on Alondra Boulevard in Paramount and injured a federal officer. Reyna is 40 years old, weighs around 165 pounds, and is 5'7". Reyna has a tattoo on his left arm with the word Carmen on it. We have photos of him on display. Reyna will be caught, and when he is, he will face a statutory maximum penalty of 8 years in prison. This is such a priority for the United States government that there is a reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to his arrest. Let me repeat that. $50,000 for information leading to his arrest. The second case I'd like to highlight is on a subject named Alejandro Oriana. Alejandro was providing masks and face shields to violent rioters throughout the week and was arrested by our SWAT teams this morning. With the success and appreciation and assistance from the United States Attorney's Office, that case is ongoing, but Oriana is in custody as we speak. If you have information or evidence of violent acts, please either call 1-800-CALL-FBI, visit tips.fbi.gov, or send images or video to our digital tip line at fbi.gov/LA Office Assault. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to Chief Bovino, United States Border Patrol.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. I'm Greg Bovino, Chief Patrol Agent of the El Centro Border Patrol Sector and Lead Federal Coordinator for Customs and Border Protection entities here in Los Angeles. Entities include U.S. Border Patrol, Office of Field Operations, and CBP Air and Marine. We have several hundred agents and officers here in Los Angeles right now as we speak. Our primary mission here in Los Angeles revolves around Title 8 United States Code. Let me say that again. Title 8 United States Code. Those are our immigration statutes. If you look behind us at these pictures on the wall, immigration's not a victimless crime. A lot of bad people, a lot of bad things are in our country now, including Los Angeles. For Customs and Border Protection, that's why we're here right now, is to remove those bad people and bad things, whether illegal aliens, drugs, or otherwise. We're here and we're not going away. Border Patrol, Office of Field Operations, and Air and Marine, you'll see us in Los Angeles. You'll continue to see us in Los Angeles, not going anywhere soon. As for the violence and the demonstrators, violence will not deter us, the CBP mission here in Los Angeles. I believe we saw that last Sunday night out at Paramount. We continued to conduct our patrols as we saw necessary in the middle of that riot. And we'll continue to do that from here on out. Our allied law enforcement agencies, many of whom you've already heard from, whether it's HSI, ERO, FBI, ATF, and all others, join with us as we conduct that Title 8 mission. Very historic. First time I've ever seen it in my almost 30-year career. It's actually breathtaking. Many millions of illegal aliens have passed across that border over the past several years. It's our job to get them out. And that's what we are going to do, and that's what we're doing right now. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kenny Cooper. I'm a Special Agent in Charge, ATF, LA Field Division. The Department of Justice will not be deterred from enforcing this nation's laws. ATF is on the ground doing what we do best, fighting violent crime and protecting our communities regardless of the environment around us. Our agents are trained to operate in high-threat, high-tension situations. When federal authorities move to execute court-authorized warrants, we support that mission with professionalism, precision, and resolve. ATF stands shoulder to shoulder with our federal partners in this whole of government approach. ATF stands also shoulder to shoulder, including to carry out our immigration enforcement mission. If a criminal threat intersects with that mission, we bring our full capacities to the table. Let's be clear, obstructing a lawful federal operation, especially through violence or threats, is not protective activity. It's a crime. And those who cross that line will be held to account. We don't get to pick and choose when to enforce the law. Our job is to uphold it, always. ATF will continue to pursue violent offenders, support our partners, and keep doing the hard work this public demands. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Bill Saley, the United States Attorney for the Central District of California. On behalf of my office and the Department of Justice, I'm here to show our support and our collaboration with the Department of Homeland Security in their mission to protect the American people and to do immigration enforcement operations, specifically at targeted known criminals, which is the primary focus of most of our missions to date. I want to also thank the National Guard and the military. We had judicial warrants to do what we did on both Friday and Saturday. And the amount of resistance and organized agitators that showed up to try to impede us was overwhelming. And we're really grateful to the President for deploying the Guard, which allowed us to continue our mission undeterred, to enforce the law, and to keep our people and our buildings safe. And that's really important. And my office has been aggressive in bringing charges. We charged several people over the weekend who dared to assault our agents. They threw rocks, they threw stones, they were breaking up concrete. It was out of control and it was violent. And some people in the state of California have been conditioned to think that there's no consequences for criminal activity. And you know, that might be true for the state of California, but it's not true with the federal government. And we will bring charges and you will go to federal prison. This is the federal government. This is not the state government. As the President said, if you spit, we hit, and we'll hit you with a felony. And we're committed to that. We're continuing to conduct, we're looking at hundreds of suspects. We're collecting media, social media, videos. We'll be combing over that stuff for weeks and months with the FBI. And just because you think you got away with something over the weekend, think again. In a few months from now, you could get a knock at your door. So anyone who's thinking about showing up to these protests to commit violence, I really caution you to think again. It's not worth it. We charged 2 individuals yesterday with throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers. That is extremely dangerous and could lead to death. They're now looking at explosives charges charged by the federal government and more charges to come. So I just want to reiterate that we will be aggressive, we will be filing, and we will be swift in our deliverance of justice. And I want to thank our partners at the FBI, the ATF, and DHS, and all our agencies for their hard work. It has not been easy. They've been working around the clock, but they're undeterred. And I can tell you, speaking to them, they are more committed than ever to delivering on the promise of the President to make America safe again. And we need that in California probably more than anywhere else. So with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. And everyone for their comments. And with that, we're going to open it up to questions, but we're going to keep it specifically to questions that pertain to this topic and some of the operations that are ongoing here in Los Angeles and how we will sustain and build on those operations in the future. So do you want to go first?
Matt Rivers,
Yes.
ABC News.
Yes.
A question for you about future planning. We know that there's more protests planned for this weekend.
Yes.
Is DHS actively planning on requesting more assistance from DFD, more troops, given those protests that are coming? Is this the administration's new playbook?
You know, what I would say is that I'm not going to telegraph exact statistics and numbers and what we are doing as far as participation with the military. But we do have several thousand engaged here in Los Angeles right now. We are assessing this weekend's threat levels, not just here, but in cities across the country, and pre-deploying assets. So we're using every tool that we have in our toolbox and pre-staging people, task forces, special swift response teams, people with specific gifts and talents that they can contribute to areas that we think they may be needed this weekend, so that we can prevent any kind of violence from being
But
perpetuated.
it's on the table, the idea of bringing more troops.
You know, I would
in
say the
on
president
scene.
has the right to utilize every authority that he has under the Constitution to utilize Title X and to bring in military assets and National Guard units as needed, and he'll continue to assess that and use his prerogative to decide when it's necessary. Yeah.
Madam Secretary, you had previously asked the Defense Secretary to direct troops to arrest people. Is that something you'd still like to see?
You know, I think what I had talked was a conversation with the Department of Defense to ask them to use the authorities that they have in conjunction with the president to make sure that there's consequences for people who perpetuate violence. So that is what the assessment is, and they're being utilized to the fullest extent to which the president wishes to at this point in time. And I'm so thankful we have a U.S. attorney and a Department of Justice that is going out there prosecuting these crimes as well. That's something that was very different under the Biden administration. That is a game changer now. We have a president now that believes in the rule of law, and that is going to make sure that when people break the law, no matter who you are, that you will be prosecuted and you will be brought to justice. Yes, sir.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
Salvador Dwyer with the Unity Network.
Yeah.
Two questions for you. The first one is, do you have an estimated number of people that have been detained and deported? And the second question I have to ask you, would you please address Senator Padilla's interruption to your press conference?
You know,
and
I'm gonna-
consider
yeah.
even pressing charges for what we just witnessed here.
Oh, you know what, I don't even know the senator. He did not request a meeting with me or to speak with me. So when I leave here, I'll have a conversation with him and visit and find out really what his concerns were. I think everybody in America would agree that that wasn't appropriate. That if you wanted to have a civil discussion, especially as a leader, a public official, that you would reach out and try to have a conversation. For instance, I have left voicemails for Governor Newsom wanting to have a conversation. Has he returned them? No, he hasn't. I know that the White House has reached out and had conversations with Mayor Bass as well. And so that's what you do to try to start these conversations and ask for partnerships. Unfortunately, we haven't met that in this area. I'll visit with the senator and find out really what his concerns are and what we can do.
And as far as the estimated number of people that have
You know, what I would say is that we have over 1,500 people that we have been interdicting with, arresting for different situations, and we will continue to build on that. That's been just over the last few days. Know that we have more assets now today than we did yesterday. We had more yesterday than we did the day before, so we are only building momentum. This is only going to continue and be increased until we have peace on the streets of Los Angeles. The president has told me, Kristi, use everything that we have to make sure that the citizens of Los Angeles know that we care about them, that they have lived with crime for far too long, and that we want them to be able to walk their children to school in the morning and feel safe. We want them to have small businesses downtown to not have to worry about getting burned to the ground because some organized crime nonprofit funder is deciding that now is the time to send a political message or an agenda. So we're going to stay here and build our operations until we make sure that we liberate the city of Los Angeles. Yes, back there.
So can you
I'm
talk,
going to do two more if that's okay. Go ahead.
can you talk a little bit about the specific number in terms of immigration-related arrests that you've made, both daily and you know, or in LA specifically and
We
nationwide?
literally have tens of thousands of targets. So I think that's what's more important. People should know that there are millions of people that are in this city illegally, and that we have, I would say, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of targets that we will be going after. Remember, this president has repeatedly said that he's going after criminals and the worst of the worst. And we're going after people that are in work sites that are trafficking drugs, that are trafficking human beings. We're DNA testing children, because many times when you see people claiming that their family members or the children they have with them that are theirs, many times when we DNA testing, they're not. They're really peddling our children, and and they have human slavery going on, child trafficking, pedophilia. So we are going after those individuals that we have intelligence on, and we will continue to only build on that. And yes, I'm sorry to get you right away.
There is some rhetoric out there that some of the people who have been detained, arrested, in detention are not criminals or do not have a criminal history. Can you address that? There's a lot of rhetoric out there that claims
Well, there's a lot of rhetoric, and there's a lot of false information and a lot of fake news. So I'd appreciate it if you guys would start covering the facts. And we'll get you all that information that we possibly can.
Can you address
Now, there
that?
may be people that because of the targets that we were out there arresting, that were with those individuals, they were collaterals that were spending time with them, and all those people will be vetted. And remembering, still in the United States, if you come into this country illegally, you have committed a crime. And so when you do that, we have to go through and follow the law and make sure that we're adjudicating that and dealing with that appropriately. So the president's targets and priorities are the criminals that have perpetuated violence, but also, once again, I'm going to remind everybody, you have the opportunity to self-deport. We will buy you a plane ticket. We will give you $1,000 when you land in your home country, or if you go home to Mexico, and then we will get you scheduled so that you can come back to this country legally. You will have the opportunity to come back to the United States of America. If you don't do that and you wait until we come and arrest you and have to remove you, you will never get the chance to come and live in the United States of America again. The president has been clear on this. So I'd encourage you to get on the CBP Home app, and you can self-deport today, and we will facilitate that. You can take your entire family with you, people and your loved ones, and we will facilitate you coming to this country correctly. Everybody has the opportunity to do that. If you wait until we have to arrest you, you will never get to be an American, much less live here and work here and be able to pursue the American dream. Last question.
Madam Secretary, Alejandra Ortiz with Telemundo 52.
Yes.
You just said that you go after the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen ICE arresting immigrants in front of their court hearings when they go to their annual immigration check-ins. Even if they're going
And remember,
through the
these
legal
are people-
process, are we sending the message as a country that people, even with no criminal record, and that they're taking the legal correct path, are not safe from
If they took the
detention?
legal correct path, they would have come here legally. They wouldn't have come into our country illegally. Second
But
of all,
some of them
they
are
have
not
final
criminals. They have
removal
come
orders.
here and
They have
maybe they
final-
overstay their visa.
They have final
And that's a
removal
criminal-
orders, and we're
that's
following.
That's a civil offense, but not a criminal record.
It is actually under the acts that the president has invoked through his executive orders. It actually is a criminal offense. And so one of the things that we need to remember is that when you're going out there and talking about what is happening with individuals who are in this country illegally, is that they have the opportunity every single day to return back home, and we will work with them and facilitate that and work with their families. But if they choose to wait back and to not make that decision today, then they are subject to this type of operation that will target those that have criminal activity and backgrounds and perpetuators of violence first. Those are our targets. But we are going to make sure that we're bringing peace back to the city of Los
I just talked to an immigration
Angeles.
attorney. She told me she has hundreds of cases of people coming in asking for asylum. They go to their immigration check-in.
So
and they're being
my only
arrested
question to you,
not
I'd say a
without
question
having
back
the-
to you
the
is,
right of their due process.
which laws in the United States should be enforced and which ones shouldn't? I mean, now my job, here's the deal, guys. My job is not to pick and choose which laws we enforce and which ones we don't. We have laws in this country, and they matter. If you want the law changed, go to Congress. When's the last time you went to Capitol Hill and told your senator or representative to change it? That's what they need to do. This is the perfect time for Congress to make a decision on how they want people in this country to be able to have an opportunity to come here legally and to fix this.
But the law
We,
says
as
there's
law
a due
enforcement
process for
officers
people.
and as a national security department and agency, my job is to uphold the law, and that's what I will continue to do. Yes, sir, I'm going to finish with you. And I kind of like the Bass Pro hat too, so I'm going to go
Alan,
here and then I'm going to go to you. So go ahead.
lawyer.
Yes.
Is this unique to Los Angeles? Does Los
Nope, these
Angeles have
operations-
something, or can other
I will
cities
say
anticipate?
these operations have been much more difficult because of Los Angeles and California's sanctuary policies. SB 54 has been difficult for us, and we don't have the backup of your local law enforcement. That's put our officers in danger. In fact, even this morning, we had Highway Patrol that we were working with. I was talking to officers. They were so happy that we were here, and they were grateful that we were here. interdicting with these criminals, and then the governor found out that I was here, and he pulled them off of me and told him to go back home and to not cooperate with us anymore. So if you don't think your governor's being political, he gets up every single day and the first hat he puts on is the political one, and then he makes a decision that's best for him and his family, and then he makes a decision that's best for what his future is, and then maybe 10 or 15 steps down the line, he'll decide what's best for his people.
Can other
That's what
cities
your governor
anticipate
does.
the same
Next,
thing?
I'm going to come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Can you talk about the potential change in policy with President Trump talking about maybe suggesting exemption for longstanding farm workers and postal workers?
Yeah, I think the president recognizes that we have some Department of Labor regulations and laws that we can utilize in certain situations, and he and I have discussed this at length and with other cabinet officials, and the president and I will continue to look at that and evaluate what we can do as far as individuals and facilitating a workforce in this country that we know are people who want to be here legally, what the consequences are for them breaking the law, because everybody, when they break the law, there has to be consequences. But what we can do to facilitate making sure that those who really do love the United States of America have the opportunity at some point to live here and to be a part of our future and to be a part of this country and our economy and the dream of raising their children here. All right, thank you, everybody.
Have you been able to tour
Appreciate it.
Have you been able to tour Los Angeles while you were here?
I've been traveling around Los Angeles all morning.
What did you see? I would love to know what
you know, I saw a lot of graffiti, a lot of destruction. I saw quite a bit of, where we saw some of the activity. We are staying close to downtown where we were last night. It was very interesting to me. I would have preferred to have gotten into some areas that I know I was respecting the curfew because I landed after midnight and then we left the hotel this morning before 5 a.m., around 5 a.m. So, but some of those areas that we were able to see, it makes me sad. This is a phenomenal state, and this is such a beautiful city.
So
and
you
people
were down
dream.
south, but you only saw downtown since you've been here.
No, I've been driving. I mean, we've been in the car most of the morning doing different operations and out with our agents. But I mean, are you not? Don't you want your downtown to be beautiful?
No, I just wanted to know. I wanted to know your impression of what
Yeah.
you've seen. If it was only downtown, or
Yeah.
if you've seen other parts of.
No, I mean, I've been
Los
here many
Angeles.
times before. I've been,
Yeah.
but as far as this trip, we've been out on operations with law enforcement officers, and so we've covered quite a bit of territory. And I'll still be here doing different things in different areas. But I would say that everybody should want their downtown. And if you're a business owner in a downtown, if you're a family that lives there, you want it to be safe. And you want it to be good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. We will take any follow-ups later. Thank you.
And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could learn any new additional information. And at one point, I had a question. And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights, for our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground, and I was handcuffed. I was not arrested. I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country. We will hold this administration accountable. And we'll have more to say. We'll have more to say in the coming days. Let me say just briefly in Spanish as well. Soy el senador Alex Padilla y estuve aquí porque tuve una junta para recibir más información de los representantes de la administración, especialmente porque desde el principio del término de Donald Trump, y especialmente esta última semana por lo que ha ocurrido aquí en la región de Los Ángeles, hemos pedido más información para entender las pólizas, las estrategias de la administración. Y las respuestas han sido mínimas. Tuve una junta aquí para recibir más información cuando me di cuenta que la secretaria Noem tenía una rueda de prensa en el mismo edificio, en el mismo piso. Calmamente fui a escuchar para ver si podría aprender algo nuevo sobre los esfuerzos, las acciones del departamento. A un punto de la rueda de prensa traté de hacer una pregunta. Muy calmado, todo tranquilo, tuve una pregunta y casi inmediatamente los agentes me sacaron, me forzaron de la sala. Primero me hicieron hincar, después completamente al piso me pusieron esposas. No me arrestaron, no me detenieron. Pero una gran pregunta es esta. Si esta es la reacción a un senador con una pregunta, imagínense lo que están haciendo con cocineros, jornaleros, campesinos y otros inmigrantes no violentos en la comunidad de Los Ángeles, en otras áreas del estado de California y en el país. No voy a tomar preguntas en este momento, pero sí quise explicar lo que ocurrió y tendremos más que decir en los días que vienen. Just want to once again, for not just the community here in Los Angeles, but throughout the country, because there is a lot of concern, there is a lot of tension, there is a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people are beginning to make plans for what they may or may not do come this Saturday. I encourage everybody to please peacefully protest, just like I was calmly and peacefully listening in that press conference and preparing, attempting to ask a question.
Why did you
no violence, no vandalism. Please continue peacefully protesting, and that's all I will have to say today. Thank you very much.
Can you give us any insight what you and the secretary said afterwards?
Why did you come in and do that? Why did you disrupt it?
Christine, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but as you see, Senator Padilla is walking away from the press conference right now, and I'm not going to chase him to the stage. So let's try. Come on.
Me over, I know, yes. This is as close as I can
Thank you everyone for being here. We put a call out about an hour ago. And with this call, and I'm so glad that you are here as children, you came on a moment's notice because every single person standing here understands the gravity of this situation.
That's right.
And what we want to show to the world, you want to know Los Angeles? This is Los Angeles. Last Thursday, Los Angeles was peaceful. There was nothing happening here that warranted what began to take place on Friday. So today I wanted to present a visual, one that Angelinos know, but I just want to make sure that the state, the country, and the world knows that this is Los Angeles. We are a city of labor, we are a city of businesses, we are a city of faith, we are a city of believers, and we are a city of dreamers. So let's just remember why we are here today. Last Thursday, ICE entered our city and provoked the city by chasing people through Home Depots and car washes and showing up at schools, and today showing up at emergency rooms and homeless shelters. ICE intervened as a pretext to federalize the National Guard, and then in the White House, the National Guard was complimented for the work that they did to keep peace in the city Saturday night. But I will tell you, the Guard didn't even arrive here until Sunday. They used this as a pretext to send the U.S. Marines into an American city, which will target our own citizens. They've been threatening elected officials with arrests, and they just shoved and cuffed a sitting U.S. senator. How could you say that you did not know who he was? We see the videotape, we see him saying who he was, but how do you not recognize one of two senators in our state? And he is not just any senator. He is the first Latino senator to ever represent our state. The images we have seen of our city over the past week, the rage, the vandalism, the looting, none of that is LA. Los Angeles is who you see behind me, representatives of the faith community, the business community, community organizations. Yesterday I stood at this podium with over 30 mayors from Los Angeles County who are all concerned about what is going on. Los Angeles is a Jewish community, a Muslim community, a Christian community, and many other faiths. Los Angeles is Chinatown, Little Tokyo, Filipino Town, Koreatown, Thai Town, the South LA African American community, the Chamber of Congress, the Central City Association. This is LA, and we are united. And I just want to say that I was listening to the words of the secretary at the press conference describing LA as a war zone. It is my understanding that she arrived here late last night, was here for a few hours today, and came to that conclusion. There's no one up here that sees Los Angeles like that, and I know as the press, you know this is not all of Los Angeles. This is isolated to a few blocks in a city that is over 500 square miles. And out of those 500 square miles, the protests, and especially the protests that devolved into vandalism, represents about half a square mile. So the notion that this is happening all over our city, the notion that this city is not governable, the notion that we need the military to intervene, we have the capacity to address these problems, and I know there's not a person up here that supports vandalism, that supports violence, and that understands if you support the immigrant community, you know how to do it in a peaceful manner. We are proud to say that we have a well-established, a well-respected immigrant rights organizations that have been holding protests for years and years that have never devolved into violence. And so to characterize what is going on as our city is a city of mayhem is just an outright lie. I'm not going to call it an untruth. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to call it for what it is, which is a lie. And I just have to say, I served with the secretary. I served with the secretary for probably about 10 years in Congress. And Madam Secretary, I do not recognize you anymore. I do not know Kristi Noem that I served with for 10 years. So no matter what happens out of the White House. We will always uphold and reflect what Los Angeles and the United States of America are truly about. Freedom, tolerance, and for God's sake, our Constitution. With that, I would like to introduce Angelica Salas, the Executive Director of CHIRLA, one of the most respected and established immigrant rights organization that has been in our city for over 4 decades and is known throughout the nation. And I want to ask you, Angelica, to talk about what the letter that you received this morning.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. See, the Los Angeles that I love is made up of beautiful people who are behind me and who are all over this city. This is a city that cares for one another. This is a city of caretakers. The people that I'm standing next to are people who work with our students and our children. They're people who work in our faith institutions, caring for entire congregations. They're the people who are fighting for worker rights. They're our union brothers and sisters. These are the people who are running to the detention centers in order to offer legal services to those who are currently detained. They're the same people talking to the families that are calling us on our hotline. This is the Los Angeles that I love deeply. This is also the Los Angeles that the immigrant community has helped build from its very, very first days as a city. And what I want you to know is the city that I love loves our people back. What I have seen come to our city is cruelty, is chaos, is violations of human, civil, and constitutional rights. What has been brought to our city has been racial profiling in a way that I have never experienced it in my career. What I see now, and based on all our reports, is over 45 enforcement actions, not just in the city of Los Angeles, but our entire region, all of Southern California. I have never seen this. It's unprecedented, and that is an understatement. The pain that we are witnessing when we talk to the family members is unbearable, of children being left behind. And I want this president to know that this city is tough, it is organized, it is disciplined, and will not tolerate what is happening at this moment. What was very clear to me this year was, at the beginning of the year, is that they were not just going after the immigrant community, but they were going to go after all the immigrant rights organizations that supported them. And they did. They began by defunding us, by making sure that organizations here next to me wouldn't have the resources to be able to go represent children and vulnerable adults, disabled individuals in detention, that took away legal services from those who are still trying to find their parents and their children from the first Trump administration. And now what I see very clearly is they're coming to the organizations by then, I would say, just saying the most vicious of lies of who we are and what we do and what we're about. But the truth is the truth, and it's based on our actions. Not actions of this day, but actions of decades. And yes, we have received a letter from Senator Josh Hawley. But what I want you to know is that's not going to deter us. It's not going to intimidate us from standing with our immigrant community, by standing with our families, by demanding due process, by demanding that there be accountability for the violations of human and civil rights that have occurred in our city. But I know I'm not alone. These are all the people who are here with me, and there's so many good people in LA, and we're gonna stand together. We're gonna show this country that we do believe in liberty and justice for all, and that our Constitution and our Bill of Rights are our guiding principles, and that is what has brought so many immigrants to this country, because they believe deeply in these values, and we're gonna fight to make sure that those values are upheld. Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you, Mayor.
Let me just say that one thing I think that is not thought about, we certainly understand it in our city. The immigrant community is vital to the economy of our city.
That's right.
There are entire sectors of our economy that will not function if the immigrant community is too afraid to go to work and too afraid to go to school. You could talk about the construction industry, and I think there's a lot of building that needs to take place here. You can talk about hospitality, and I think that we are concerned about our tourism industry. And I could go on and on about the economic impact. That is why we have the Chamber of Commerce and the Central City Association led by Nell McCosker and Maria Salinas, the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for your work. Angelica, thank you for your work and what you are doing in the front lines. On behalf of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, I can tell you that we are deeply, deeply disturbed by all the activity that we have seen. And Mayor, you are right. We have a local economy here that is vibrant, but it's vibrant because of all our workforce. That includes our immigrant workforce that is here. And we at the Chamber of Commerce, we understand and we know that they play a role in just about every sector that you can think of. We understand that together, that we power one of the largest economies in this country. And it is important for us to recognize that if we have employees that do not show up to work, that's a problem. If they do not show up to their health appointments, that's a problem. They do not show up to their school and their education, that's a problem for our broader community. We want to see this community thrive. This is the Los Angeles that we all know. And I'm so proud to stand with all the civic leaders that are here, the business leaders that are here to say enough. We need to de-escalate this. We cannot have what happened to Senator Padilla today. That cannot be the norm. And Los Angeles will rise above this because we've done it before. And we're going to do it again. And we're going to do it with everyone in our community, including our immigrant population. I was with our chamber board this morning, affirming the work that we are doing to ensure that this community feels safe, feels supported, and that we are all working together just like we're here with the mayor and with this entire group here today. Thank you, Mayor, for having us and for lifting up how important it is to sustain an economy that works for all. Thank you.
I started off my day meeting with representatives of the business community and the labor community, which plays a vital role in our city. And there are already reports of people not showing up to work, of empty store shelves, of people feeling that they cannot leave, kids and families afraid to go to graduations. The attendance at graduations being down by 25 and 50% because parents are afraid that on one of the most important days of their lives, that they cannot attend the graduation because they might be detained by ICE. This is not the America, this is not the city that we live in, and we will not accept this. We are also a city of faith, a city of many faiths, many cultures. There's not too many countries on earth that are not represented in Los Angeles. I'd like to bring up Father Brendan Bowes from the Dolores Mission Church.
Thank you, Mayor Bass. My name is Father Brendan Bussey. It's okay, Polish immigrants do strange things to their last names. As you said, I'm the pastor of Dolores Mission Church, and it was great to have you stand with the interfaith community. I hope you felt the interfaith community standing with you on Tuesday when we came into Grand Park to pray in peace, to pray for peace, to bring a presence of peace. And I know, as you mentioned, the children that are here and our families are feeling that this is a moment that is quite scary for many of us. But I stand here today to remind us that this is also not just a scary moment, but a sacred moment. This is a sacred moment where we as the city of Los Angeles stand up and recognize that there's two ways we can live, as if everything is sacred or as if nothing is. And we stand here today because we know that everything and everyone and every place is sacred. There are some in our government, as you know, as we have seen, that act as if nothing is sacred. Not our churches, not our schools, not our hospitals, not our shelters, not our homes, not our streets, not our parks, no place is sacred, and nobody is treated as if they were in this city by this government. And so I'm here to remind you that this is a moment where we have a choice to make. If everything is sacred, then we need to respect the dignity of all people, respect the rights of all people. We need to do everything we can to advocate and stand for that, and everybody in this room, I think, stands with us as we say that. I go to my school every day, and I hear things now that I don't ever want to hear. Children looking at me saying, "Father Brendan, I saw you on the news." That's something I never wanted to hear. But I asked one of those children, I said, "How did that make you feel?" And he said, thought for a minute, and he said, "Strong. I felt strong when I saw you up there." And that's what I want everybody to hear in the faith community, the civic community, the business community, the whole of Los Angeles. Then we stand together. Our children do not feel scared. They do not feel threatened. They do not feel worried about who's going to be home when they get back from school. They feel strong when they see us standing together. They feel brave when they see us acting in their name. They feel proud when they see people standing up for what is right. And that's what we do here today, and always, as we said in the park on Tuesday, we will continue to be brave with our love, because that's what Los Angeles is. Someone at that action was there crying in tears, asking, "Where is my family?" And as I heard them say that, I said, I don't know where they are, but I know exactly who they are. They are our brothers and sisters, and we need to start acting as if that were true. We will be brave with our love. We will be brave with our love. We will be brave with our love.
So let me just say, as I said earlier, that there's no one up here that supports vandalism, that supports violence. We have had to have a curfew in the city because we want to make sure that the downtown neighborhood and all the other neighborhoods are safe. But let me be very clear. We want peace to come to our city. The peace that we need to have happen needs to begin in Washington, and we need to stop the raids. Having the military, soldiers who are trained to fight wars on foreign soil here in our city is not going to bring peace, because first and foremost, they are not needed. Second of all, federalizing the National Guard will not bring peace to our city. That is not, all that is going to do is provoke people and create and add to the sense of fear in this city. We know how to bring about peace, and peace begins with ICE leaving Los Angeles. Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a few questions. Zach?
We're going first to Aaron and then to Robert.
Mayor Bass, have you been able to get on the phone with President Trump?
No, I have made a formal request. I have talked to members that are close to the administration. We will see if my formal request is granted.
Is he denying your request?
There has just not been a response just yet.
We're going to Robert and then Josh.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
Let's talk about the curfew. Is it going to continue? How long is it going to continue? Does the zone need to be expanded after we saw last night in Koreatown?
Well, I don't think the zone needs to be expanded. Unfortunately, we will continue the curfew. And my hope is after continuing it a few more days, that people will get the message that we are serious. The arrest that took place last night was not for looting, was not for violence. It was for unlawful assembly and curfew violation. What I noticed when I was traveling the streets late last night is that the people that were out on the streets were young people waving flags, and they were not violent. That was not the group that has committed the vandalism.
We're going to Josh and then Jorge.
Mayor Bass, in her remarks earlier, Kristi Noem said that you have not responded to calls from the White House, that they've tried to get in contact.
Like I said, I do not recognize the secretary anymore. I don't know who she is.
Yep.
That is a complete lie.
Have you spoken to Senator Padilla, and what would you like to tell?
I have spoken to Senator Padilla, and I just, one, expressed my concern about his health, about his safety. And, all I can say is that, I mean, in some instances, there's no words. This is a sitting U.S. senator, not somebody, and frankly, if you're going to come into town and say you have diagnosed what is happening in our city, and you don't even know who the U.S. senator is?
Mayor Bass, what is happening in the country, everybody is outrageous, by the majority of the Americans. Where do you think that democracy is going to? Racism? 2020 president? What do you think?
Let me just say that I think that unfortunately our city is being used as a test case. I feel like we're a citywide laboratory to see what happens if Washington comes in and literally usurps the authority of the governor, usurps the authority of the mayor. And so I think as part of this test case, it's a warning for other cities, but clearly other cities are very concerned, which is why you have seen protests spread. But I also know that there's a new mayor in Omaha, Nebraska. I don't know how many hours he's been mayor, and he's already experiencing raids. So I think this sense of fear and terror goes whenever you have ICE that's out there. ICE could be raiding folks right now. I was in a meeting with Angelica and some of the other immigrant rights leaders the other morning, and everybody's cell phones started going off. Why? Because they were being notified of raids that were taking place in front of schools. You might have heard me mention that my grandson's elementary school, there were ICE agents right out in front of that. We believe that it's because they thought it was a graduation that was taking place. And the violent criminals that they detained were 2 street vendors selling food.
We're going across to the territory. You can say your name and your outlet.
Jason Thompson, ProPublica, PBS Frontline. At 5:52 a.m. this morning, the National Guard was used to effect what seemed to be a low-level criminal arrest.
Yeah.
Were you aware of that?
No. No, but thank you for raising that, because I think what that could indicate is an expansion of their mission. Their mission here is supposed to be solely protecting the federal buildings. 100 National Guard or federalized National Guard are in the downtown federal building, and 100 are in the Westwood federal building. Westwood always has protests. None of them have been about this issue. I don't even know why they're there, and frankly, I don't know why the Federalized National Guard is needed. But I will tell you, when I saw the Federalized National Guard there this morning, it indicated to me that there might be an expansion of their mission, and I believe that is extremely dangerous. Again, all that does is provoke the community.
That's right. Mayor Bass, Joe Goldberg with LA Times. Do you see this past week, as a turning point in the Trump administration? How does it compare to the last time he was president for you?
Well, for me, the last time he was president, I was in Washington, D.C., and a lot of these ideas were lifted then. They talked about them, but they didn't implement them. So in part, and I think that's true for most of us, we heard this rhetoric before. Now we're watching it play out, and it's extremely terrifying.
Molly and then
Mayor, two things. First, you mentioned. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Molly for Washington. Two questions. One, do we know whether Marines have actually entered the city of Los Angeles or been actually deployed out in Los Angeles? And then second, we've got this court ruling we're expecting to come down in San Francisco today. What's the significance of that for Los Angeles
Well,
to the National Guard?
Well, hopefully the significance of that is the Federalized National Guard will leave. Again, we have a very good relationship with our governor. If the National Guard was needed, I could have picked up the phone, called the police chief, called the sheriff, and said, please make the request, and it would not have been denied. Once again, there was no reason for that. You asked, what was the other question?
About whether the Marines have actually.
Oh, so my understanding, and you might know different, they're in Seal Beach. And by the way, the Marines who cannot arrest people, who do not do civil, in the streets, crowd control, are now being trained for that. And I think we've probably all seen the pictures of the Marines being trained. And by the way, we really need to understand, it's so important to understand our history. It's not normal for the military to be deployed on the streets of cities in the United States. The military is for foreign wars, not civil unrest that's not even happening. No, this is the thing about the military, about the Federalized National Guard, about ICE. There's no communication. None of us here know how long the raids are going to go on. We all function off of rumors, and I think the latest rumor is that it's going to go on for 30 days. The rumor is the military might be here for 60 days. The bottom line is they're not needed for 30, for 20, or for 60 days. Well, what I know is that, and I don't know, do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
So, especially every day that passes, our reports and the numbers of raids increase. They also increase in front of schools. We received reports of hospitals, and so in churches. And so what I need you to understand is that each day there are multiple actions. And they're not just in the city of Los Angeles. So they'll be in Whittier, they'll be in Downey, they'll be in all adjoining cities, regional cities. Yesterday, our RAIDS Rapid Response Network did not stop receiving calls until after 7 p.m. And so there's two kinds of reports. It's the community is also very scared. So even if they are not at an enforcement site, what's happening is they're witnessing everything. Right. So a lot of our volunteers. Mayor, can I say something in Spanish? Because I think it's really important for... nomás un mensaje a nuestra comunidad inmigrante, a toda nuestra comunidad aquí en Los Ángeles. Lo único que sí les quiero decir es que toda esta gente que está aquí, todos son líderes cívicos de Los Ángeles, con nuestra alcaldesa, todos diciéndoles a ustedes que no están solos, que vamos a luchar con ustedes por sus familias, porque son las familias de Los Ángeles, y que estamos dispuestos a seguir luchando con todo, con todas nuestras capacidades, para que la inmigración, para que estas redadas paren. Muchas gracias.
Claro.
Oh, sure, sure.
Father, many parishioners from all the Catholic churches are asking their pastors if they can go to Mass on Sunday, and there are some groups, Catholic groups in different cancel their community events. What is the message for the Catholics to take action or to stay in silence?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question because there is a lot of fear. A lot of people aren't showing up for work. They're not showing up for school. They're not showing up at church. And what I would say is I don't know of any specific decision, at least in the Diocese of Los Angeles, to advise around that. But one thing, I've responded to many of these raid incidences in East LA, and one thing that sometimes I get the response is, well, did it happen at the parish? And what they mean is the church building. And I just like to remind everybody that a parish community is actually the whole neighborhood. And so I would call on religious leaders and parish communities to surround their churches and to surround their communities with the same kind of support. So when we, in any place, you can ask for extra presence that might help people feel safe, or you might make a decision to cancel the events that you have if it seems like people aren't safe or there's an active threat to them. So that's what I would say. I think it's a call on all of us to make sure that those places are safe, whether we are members of that congregation or not, that the congregation is really mixed in like all of our brothers and sisters within the whole community.
And my question is because they already went
Right.
to churches
In
the city of
Downey. Right.
They
That's right.
arrested an old man
Right.
who was seated on the parking lot.
That's right.
If they already touch one single church,
Right.
even if it's not Catholic, nobody's safe.
That's right, yeah. I mean, what our community has said again and again is that they just feel hunted and they feel kidnapped. They feel sequestered, right? And they're hunting people, and that might end up in a church parking lot. They might end up in another parking lot. But we also know that organizations are receiving specific letters that seem to threaten them. At our church, we haven't received one of those letters yet, but you know, you never know what's going to happen. I think that that's what we need to be prepared for. Yeah.
We're going to go down in front and then end with Dave Dana.
Let me just say before we do that, you know, a couple of the other impacts. Thank you for mentioning the church, because that was a grandfather that was dropping off his granddaughter. But some of the other impacts, when people are detained, and Angelica, you will correct me if I'm wrong, you've been doing this for years and years. In the past, people have had access to legal counsel. People have had access to families. So when the priest says that people feel kidnapped, you do feel kidnapped if you don't know where your relative is. If you showed up to work because a raid was happening and you watched your mother, your father, your sister, or your brother being carted off and you don't know where they went, that creates a sense of panic. So one of the consequences of this is people being afraid to leave their homes, and then they don't want to go to the grocery store to get food. So we were talking this morning about, in solidarity, finding out who those people are and delivering food to them. That is a shame that we are even having this conversation. Go ahead, Zach.
There's been a lot of talk about protests and violence and all that, but there is an issue with the LAPD who has been firing on peaceful protesters from blank range. And they've also been deliberately firing bullets, rubber bullets, or other types of so-called less lethal munitions at reporters. The Australian reporters who put them like on camera. I know people who have concussions and wounds to their heads. And a New York Post reporter was shot in the head. You know, I think that something is not right here. And there's violence from the federal source, but all of this violence is not. It cannot be put on protesters. Protesters
Right.
are out there to
Well, I'm sorry, and I might feel differently than other people here. I would draw a distinction between the people who are vandalizing buildings and who are, you know, breaking in and looting. But let me just say that I have heard a number of accusations about the LAPD, and you can be assured that we will do an evaluation of all of it. Because one thing about our city, like a lot of other cities, just about everything is videotaped, including law enforcement and including people who are protesting. So I would draw a distinction between people who are peacefully protesting. So there will be an evaluation and an investigation into everything that happened, including the conduct of the police department. Right.
ICE visits. What is the city doing right now, or what has it done up until this point?
Sure.
At these locations?
Sure. Well, let me just tell you, prior to Friday, many city departments that interface with the public have been given the information, know your rights, the typical information that is passed out by immigrant rights organizations and the city. Now, having said that, we need to really ramp up. I will tell you, though, that this has been happening so fast that we absolutely need to do that, because I can also imagine people fleeing into these buildings for protection. But I also don't want to misrepresent the power of the city as well. It's important that people understand that the federal government is more powerful than the city or the state. And a lot of questions have come up about why can't you just stop this? Trust me, if I could, I would. But we have to be careful, because we also don't want to invite the federal government in to press charges against a lot of people unnecessarily. So let me just say thank you all for showing up, and I just can't thank all of you enough, because you are showing who our city is. You are showing that our city is going to be united, and you are showing that we are not going to allow this administration or any other administration to divide us and to have us in conflict with each other, because we are LA. Thank you.
Yeah.
That means all different.